The Prodigies of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Series 5, Volume 16, August 20th, 1923. The sanctity of living in the divine will has nothing prodigious on the outside. Example of the Most Holy Virgin. I was thinking to myself, my good Jesus says many admirable things about his will, and how there is nothing greater, higher, holier than the soul whom he calls to live in his volition. If it were so, who knows how many admirable things I should be doing, how many sensational things also externally. Yet there is nothing charming or striking. On the contrary, I feel I am the most abject and insignificant one who does nothing good. While the saints, how much good did they not do? Sensational things, miracles. And yet he says that the living in his will leaves all the saints behind. Now while these and other thoughts were passing through my mind, my Jesus moved in my interior, and with his usual light he told me, "My daughter, when a sanctity is individual, for a time and a place, it has more of external prodigies, in order to attract those individuals, places, and times, to receive the grace and the good which that sanctity contains. On the other hand, the sanctity of living in my will is not an individual sanctity, assigned to doing good to certain places, to certain people, and to certain times. Rather, it is a sanctity which must do good to all, in all times, and in all places. It is a sanctity that remains eclipsed in the eternal sun of my will, which, invading all, is light without speech, fire without wood, without clamor, without smoke. But in spite of this, it does not cease to be the most majestic, the most beautiful, the most fecund. Its light is more pure, its heat more intense. The true image of it is the sun that illuminates our horizon. It illuminates all, but without clamor. It is light, but has no speech. It says nothing to anyone. The good it does, the seed it fecundates, the life it gives to all plants, and how it purifies the polluted air with its heat and destroys what can be harmful to all humanity. And yet it is so silent that even though they have it with them, they pay no attention to it. But in spite of this, it does not cease to be majestic and beautiful, and to continue the good it does to all. And if the sun were missing, everyone would mourn for it, because the greatest miracle of fecundity and preservation of all nature would be missing. The sanctity of living in my will is more than sun. A soul who is upright and fully ordered in my will is more than an army in battle. Her intelligence is ordered and bound to the eternal intelligence. Her heartbeats, affections, desires are ordered with eternal bonds. Therefore her thoughts, her will, and the whole of her interior are armies of messengers that come from her and fill heaven and earth. They are speaking voices. They are weapons that defend all, and first of all, their God. They bring good to all. They are the true celestial and divine militia that the Supreme Majesty keeps all ordered within itself, ever ready at all its commands. And then there is the example of my mamma, true sanctity of the living in my will, her interior all eclipsed in the eternal sun of the supreme volition. Having to be the queen of the sanctity of the saints, mother and bearer of my life to all, and therefore of all goods, she remained as though hidden within all, bringing good without making herself recognized. More than silent sun, she would bring light without speech, fire without clamor, good without exposing herself. There was no good that would not come from her. There was no miracle that would not spring from her. By living in my will, she lived hidden within all, and she was and is the origin of the goods of all. She was so enraptured in God, so fixed and ordered in the divine will, that her whole interior swam in the sea of the eternal volition. She was aware of the whole interior of all creatures, and she would place her own, in order to reorder them before God. It was precisely the interior of man, more than the outside, which was in greater need of being redone and reordered. And so, having to do the greater, it seemed that she would leave out the lesser, while she was the origin of both the external and the internal good. Yet on the outside, it seemed that she would not do great and sensational works. More than sun, she would pass unobserved and hidden in the cloud of light of the divine will, so much so that the very saints have given of themselves, doing apparently more sensational things than my very mamma did. Yet what are the greatest saints before my celestial mamma? They are just little stars compared to the great sun, and if they are illuminated, it is because of the sun. But even though she did not do sensational things, she did not cease to be, also visibly, majestic and beautiful, just barely hovering over the earth, all intent on that eternal will, which with great love and violence she charmed and enraptured, in order to transport it from heaven to earth, and which the human family had so brutally exiled, even unto the Empyrean. And she, with all of her interior ordered in the divine will, would give no time to time, whether she would think, palpitate, breathe, and anything she would do. These were all charming bonds, in order to draw the eternal word upon earth. And in fact she won, and performed the greatest miracle that no one else can do. This is your task, my daughter Luisa, to charm me, to bind me so much with your interior, all reordered in the supreme volition, as to transport it from heaven to earth, that it may be known and have life on earth as it does in heaven. Have no concern about anything else. The one who must do the greater has no need to do the lesser. On the contrary, the field is given to others, so that they may do the minor part, in order to give work to all. I know what is needed, the time, the place, the people, when I have to make known my greatest works, also with external prodigies. As for you, continue always your flight in my will, filling heaven and earth, charming me so much that I may not be able to resist performing the greatest miracle, that my will reign in the midst of creatures. Volume 16, November 10th, 1923. The Beauty of Littleness. God performs the greatest works in the little ones. For redemption he used the littleness of the Most Holy Virgin. For the Fiat Voluntas Tua, the littleness of Luisa. I was abandoning all of myself in the arms of my sweet Jesus, and while I was praying, I saw my soul as so very little, but of extreme littleness, and I thought to myself, how little I am. Jesus was right in telling me that I was the littlest of all. I would really like to know whether I am the littlest among all. Now, while I was thinking this, my always lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, showed me how he took this little one in his arms and squeezed her tightly to his heart, and she would let Jesus do whatever he wanted with her. And he told me, "My dear little one, I have chosen you, Luisa, little, because the little ones let one do with them whatever he wants. They do not walk by themselves, but let themselves be guided. Even more, they are afraid to place one foot on their own. If they receive gifts, feeling incapable of keeping them, they place them on the lap of their mamma. The little ones are stripped of everything, nor do they care about whether they are rich or poor. They are concerned with nothing. Oh, how beautiful the tender age is, full of grace, of beauty, and of freshness. Therefore the greater is the work I want to do in a soul, the littler I choose her. I like childlike freshness and beauty very much. I like it so much that I preserve these souls in the littleness of the nothingness from which they came. I let nothing of their own enter into them, so as not to let them lose their littleness, and therefore preserve the divine freshness and beauty from which they came." On hearing this, I said, "Jesus, my love, it seems to me that I am so very bad, and this is why I am so little. And you are saying that you love me very much because I am little? How can this be?" And Jesus again, "My little one, badness cannot enter the true little ones. Do you know when evil, when growth begins to enter? When one's own will begins to enter. As it enters, the creature begins to fill herself and to live of herself. The all goes out of the littleness of the creature, and it seems to her that her littleness becomes greater, but greatness to be cried over. Since God does not live completely in her, she moves away from her beginning, dishonors her origin, loses the light, the beauty, the sanctity, the freshness of her Creator. She seems to grow before herself and maybe before men, but before me, oh, how she decreases. She may even become great, but she shall never be my beloved, the one whom, taken by love for her, I fill with myself, that she may remain as I created her, and I make of her the greatest, whom no one shall be able to equal. I did so with my celestial mamma. Among all generations, she is the littlest, because her will never entered into her as acting, but always my eternal will. And this not only kept her little, beautiful, fresh, as she had come out of us, but made her the greatest of all. Oh, how beautiful she was, little in herself, but great and superior to all by virtue of ourselves. And only because of her littleness was she lifted up to the height of mother of the one who formed her. So as you see, all the good of man is in doing my will. All the evil is in doing his own. Therefore, in order to come to redeem man, I chose my mother because she was little, and I used her as channel in order to let all the goods and fruits of redemption descend upon mankind. Now, so that my will might be known, and heaven might be opened to let my will descend upon earth and reign on it as it does in heaven, I had to choose another among all generations. Since this is the greatest work I want to do, to restore man in his origin from which he came, to open to him that divine will which he rejected, to open my arms to him, to receive him once again into the womb of my will. My infinite wisdom calls the littlest one out of nothing. It was just that she be little. If I placed a little one at the head of redemption, I had to place another at the head of the Fiat Voluntas Tua on earth as it is in heaven. Between two little ones, I was to enclose the purpose of the creation of man. I was to realize my designs upon him. Through the one, I was to redeem him, wash him of his ugliness with my blood, and give him forgiveness. Through the other one, I was to make him return to his beginning, to his origin, to the lost nobility, to the bonds of my will broken by him, admitting him once again to the smile of my eternal will, kissing each other and live one within the other. This alone was the purpose of the creation of man, and what I have established, no one shall be able to oppose. Centuries upon centuries shall go by, just as in redemption, so also in this. But man shall return into my arms as he was created by me. But in order to do this, first I have to choose the one who must be the first to live life in my eternal will, bind in her all the relations of creation, and live with her with no split of wills, rather with her will and ours as one. From here the necessity that she be the littlest that we issue in creation, so that in seeing herself as so little, she may shun her will. Even more, she may bind it so tightly to ours as to never do her will. And though little, she may live together with us, from the blowing of that breath with which we created man. Our will preserves her fresh and beautiful. She forms our smile, our amusement, and we do with her whatever we want. Oh, how happy she is, and enjoying her littleness and her happy destiny, she shall cry for her brothers, and shall occupy herself with nothing else but compensating us, for all and for each one, of all the wrongs they do to us by withdrawing from our will. The ears of the one who lives in our will shall be powerful, more so, since she wants nothing but what we ourselves want. And after the first channel of redemption, through her we shall open the second one of the Fiat Voluntas Tua on earth as it is in heaven. On hearing this, I said, "My love and my all, tell me, who shall this fortunate be? Oh, how I would like to know her!" And he immediately, "What? Have you not understood who she is? It is you, Luisa, my little one. I have told you many times that you are the little one, and this is why I love you." But as he was saying this, I felt as though I was being transported outside of myself, into a most pure light, in which one could see all generations, as though divided into two wings, the one on the right and the other on the left of the throne of God. At the head of one wing there was the august Queen Mamma, from whom descended all the goods of redemption. Oh, how beautiful was her littleness! Marvelous, prodigious littleness! Little and powerful, little and great, little and queen, little, with everyone hanging upon her littleness, while she disposes of everything, rules over all, and only because she is little, she enfolds the Word within her littleness, making him descend from heaven to earth, to let him die for love of men. At the head of the other wing, one could see another, and I say it trembling and to obey. She was the one whom Jesus had called his little daughter of the divine will. And my sweet Jesus, placing himself in the middle of these two wings, between the two little ones who were at the head of them, with one hand took mine, and with the other that of the Queen Mamma, and he joined them together, saying, "My little daughters, hold each other's hand before our throne, and embrace the eternal divine majesty in your little arms. To you alone, because you are little, it is given to embrace the Eternal One, the Infinite One, and to enter into him. And if the first snatched redemption from the love of the Eternal One, so may the second, her hand held by the first, be helped by her to snatch from the eternal love the fiat voluntas tua on earth as it is in heaven." Now who can say what happened? I have no words to be able to express myself. I can only say that I remained more humiliated and overwhelmed, and almost like a fussy little girl. I wanted my Jesus in order to tell him of my fears, of my doubts. And I prayed that he would cast all these things away from me, as I feared that the mere thought of them was a subtle pride, and that he would give me the grace to really love him and to do his most holy will in everything. Then my always lovable Jesus, coming back again, made himself seen inside of me, and my person served as though to cover him inside of me. And without letting me speak, he told me, "My poor little one, what do you fear? Courage, I am the one who shall do everything in my little daughter. You shall do nothing but follow me faithfully, won't you? You are right that you are too little and can do nothing, but I shall do everything in you. Don't you see how I am within you, and you are nothing but the shadow that covers me? I am the one who shall cross within you the eternal and unending boundaries of my will. I, the one who shall embrace all generations, in order to bring them, together with your shadow, to the feet of the Eternal One, so that the two wills, the human and the divine, may kiss each other, may smile at each other, and may no longer look at each other like strangers, being separated, scowling at each other, but the one may be fused within the other, forming one single will. It is the power of your Jesus that must do this. You must do nothing but adhere. I know that you are nothing and can do nothing, and this is why you afflict yourself. But it is the strength of my arm that wants and can operate, and I like to operate great things in the littlest ones. And besides, the life of my will has already been on earth. It is not completely new, although it was as though in passing. It existed in my inseparable and dear Mamma. If the life of my will had not been in her, I, eternal Word, could not have descended from heaven. I would have lacked the way through which to descend, the room in which to enter, the humanity with which to cover my divinity, the food to nourish myself. I would have lacked everything, because all other things are not suitable for me. But by finding my will in my beloved Mamma, I found my very own heaven, my joys, my contentments. At most, I exchanged my dwelling from heaven to earth, but as for the rest, I changed nothing. That which I had in heaven, I found on earth by virtue of my will possessed by her, and therefore with all love, I descended into her to take on human flesh. Then my will had its life on earth in my humanity, by virtue of which I formed the redemption. Not only this, but by virtue of my will, I laid myself over all the works of the human generations, sealing them with my divine acts. And I beseeched my Father not only to redeem man, but that at the appropriate time man might win the favor of our will, as when he was created, so as to live according to the purpose wanted by us, that the will of heaven and that of the earth be one. Therefore, everything was done by me, the plane of redemption and that of the Fiat Voluntas Tua on earth as it is in heaven. It would not have been a work worthy of me had I not rehabilitated man in everything as he was created. It would be a work half done, not whole. And your Jesus does not know how to do incomplete works. At the most, I wait centuries to give the complete good prepared by me. Therefore, don't you want to be with me in giving man the work that I completed with my coming upon earth? So be attentive and faithful. Do not fear. I shall always keep you little, so as to be able to complete more my designs upon you. You have reached the end of the Prodigies of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Volume 16, Part 1. Fiat.